So Suge's here with his Bachelor update.
Yeah. So it was down to the last three. Um Picked up where we left off in week 8. And this is week 10. So he had Michelle, he had Rachel, and he had Bree. And it was called Fantasy Suites. So this was the time where he actually got to date with them and spend the evening with them, quote unquote, not insinuating what did or did not happen. Matt, before he went on his dates, he said that long-term commitments was scary because his family's history. Speaking of his parents, and he had to have a conversation, and that conversation happened to be with his father. So it was the first appearance from his father, whose name is Manny. And when they met at the door, they dapped up like bros. So that's usually like for brothers, that's usually like a sign that it's like, he's my dad, but we don't
You
see
want
each
a
other
hug?
often. A
You want
hug,
a hug,
or
right?
yeah, something like that, or like a respectful, you know, hey sir, whatever, whatever. And he said that harboring the negativity towards his father, it harmed his growth. Said that his instead of his dad building a family with him, he just went out and started other families, which means that his dad used to get around. And his dad never had like the tough conversation that they had on the show. They never had those conversations growing up. And the reason why his father never had those type of conversations with him was because his father's father, Matt's grandfather, was killed when his father was only 5 years old. So he never so just like he didn't really, Matt didn't really grow up with the father in the household. Neither did his father, so he didn't really learn how to be a dad. He kind of had to, do his best. His father was unfaithful, and his mom actually took Matt and his brother and left his dad. And his father just wanted to move past it. He wasn't really like trying to have that conversation. He thought like he was just coming there to like see his son and just celebrate, him being on the Bachelor and him reaching like the end. And but Matt felt that that conversation was part of his journey, and he felt like he couldn't commit to somebody without resolving the issues with his dad, because the reason he said was because he wants his family to have a relationship with his dad. He wants to, when he has kids, he wants his dad to be involved in his kids' lives, stuff like that. So it was really, it really gave like a background as to why it was really important for him to like have this talk with his dad. He told his dad that he wanted a relationship with him moving forward, as I said. And his dad, like, he apologized. Matt said he wouldn't hold any grudges from the past because there's still a lot of time left in the future. Like, like time ain't guaranteed to anyone, so it's like why would you hold on to those type of things? Like, I could actually relate to that because I kind of had the same relationship kind of with my dad, where it's like, he had a lot of like angst from like growing up, and like, not being close sometimes, not being close other times, stuff like that. But then I realized when I was like an adult and like we got to talking, it was just like, oh, like, let's move on from this. Like, I can't, like, I'm an adult now. Why would I be? It feels like harmful to my growth as a person to just be holding, the past against my father, and um the fact that like we could still like talk and be on good terms now. So I totally understood why he had this conversation. I actually like kind of like teared up a little bit watching it because it's very like emotional and relatable. Um and it's, yeah, it's kind of cringy. But I'll get to that when I finish talking about it. And during the conversation, he said to his dad, like his dad used to like pick him up and buy him pizza and buy him shoes. And he said this quote, he was like, he didn't need shoes and pizza, like he needed a father. And his father apologized. Like I said, they won't hold no grudges. They hugged at the end, and it was fun to me because, like I said, I was like tearing up a little bit, but you got to like laugh because Matt said to his dad, because his dad is actually, I picked it up, being a fellow, island man, that his dad was from the islands. I was trying to figure out which one, so I'm about to like look that up. But his dad plays soccer, so I guess like when they did link up, like they played soccer. He told his dad, he was like, "I'll kick your ass in soccer," and then his dad said he didn't think so because he's still a beast. Like his dad said, he's still a beast. So that was like a beautiful
Mm.
like moment to like begin the episode. Did you check out when he met his dad?
Yeah, man. I have a similar, in a way, not like, but I had like different father figures in my life growing up. My dad, my biological dad. I have a whole thing with like adoptive. Like so, my biological father is still my best friend. Man, he loves me and everything.
Hmm.
Um, but he was the guy, and he'd be like at the not soccer, basketball, because we're from New York.
Yeah,
But he'd be like there. He would show up there at night and during the day, whatever. I'd be like, get out of here, man, because I knew like because he was like my, he was like my biological, but also like my. He wasn't like there all the time, so he would
yeah,
show up for my basketball games, and I was just like fuck up my points per average, so we connect on sports. When I was a kid, we connected on the whole thing with the Yankees dynasty, and then 15 years go by, and then now I'm here with them all the time. So a father is biological father is fine, and then also anyone else in your life who's a father figure. It's important. It's you need my mom is there all the time, but you need both, and it doesn't matter if it's biological. Just it's like you need someone behind you.
yeah. So I thought it was like a really like cool moment because I've been saying over the last couple of weeks, I was like, we seen his mom on there like a few times, so it'd be interesting to see his dad. And I know a lot of people, me included, I was just like, oh boy, like his dad left his mom. He's the first Black
Mm,
Bachelor, and I'm like, the old stereotypical thing. But I mean, truth be like told, like Black fathers aren't any more absent than white fathers. It happens to everybody. Like I know a couple of people who always talk about like there's actual people I've like white guys I've met who've never met their dads, or the only time they've met their dad was when they were kids and stuff like that. So it just happens. Unfortunately, like people have kids and when they're in love but they end up falling out of love, but and they still have this bond through this child. It happens to everybody. It's not a black white
no.
race thing. So but I did think
There
that
you go.
having that conversation with his dad, I thought it was extremely genuine, and I thought it was like very beautiful that they got everything out on the table. It was lovely to watch. But now let's get into the dates. They had Michelle
Yep.
first, and her date.
Keep
Michelle,
going.
her date was at it. Her and his date was a spa day, and they were in oatmeal and they were rubbing oatmeal and milk on each other and shit. And it was called a Pennsylvania Dutch experience. And it had a point like they was all like they was rubbing like I guess like uh what do you call them people? Amish people, like the butter. They were like
Quakers.
or Quakers, like
Quakers.
they were rubbing like the butter on each other, and like I was watching that shit, and I was like, man, if me and my shorty had like a date in like butter and we got each other all oiled up, like ABC would have to cut the cameras because it would instantly turn into the Spice Channel.
Oh, Spice Channel. There you
Yeah, throwback. You know, old scrambled TV. Gotta
go. We're all scrambled.
yeah.
All right.
Um, but after the date, they had dinner and they had a card, and then it said like, do you want to spend the night together or do you want to go back to your own rooms? So of course they stayed together for the night, and they talked to each other, I think, in the morning. And she told Matt that she was in love with him, and he told her he was in love with her. And then Michelle went uh back to the resort where Bree and Rachel were, sitting and waiting for their dates. And Rachel was like all nervous about Matt spending the night with somebody else for whatever reason. Rachel and Bree were admittedly jealous that Michelle got the first date. The way I likened it, it was like, when like, you're supposed to do like class presentations. Like, I don't know about you, Mike, but I used to always like to go first just to get it out of the way. Because usually, like, the
Oh,
first person that goes, your teacher is usually a lot more generous in the grading.
I,
So yeah, what you saying?
I didn't learn that till college. I didn't learn it till college. I wanted to go last during elementary
Actually,
school.
yeah,
I'm
in
like,
college is
don't
when I
call me,
started
don't
doing
call
it.
me,
Yeah.
don't call me, don't call me, don't
Hmm.
call me, don't call me. And I'm like, I do like spectacular shit. Like I'm like, all right, we're all talking about this.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like me and
You
like,
get it
'cause
right.
like you said in school it was like that, but then in college I did the same shit because I remember like my freshman year or one of them years that like I just remember being in class and like we were supposed to do presentations and like nobody raised their hands, but I was like nervous and like me personally like I like to skip class. I used to have a tendency to miss class. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, yo, like if I go now, I don't have to go, like I won't have to go to the next class because I already went. My grade's already in the book, blah blah blah. So for that reason I used to go first. So I don't know, maybe like that's what Bree and Rachel were thinking, like, oh, since you got the first impression on him, maybe like he's gonna start he's gonna probably lean your way because he went first. But second was Bree. It was funny as hell because Bree is like a little like petite thing, and they went like backpacking in the woods, and they had her with like this big ass like backpack. She looked so funny with the big ass backpack on, and he called her like Dora the Explorer. And they had like a nice little laugh. And neither one of them ever been camping before. I've been camping, like I had to sleep outside, and every time I did it, I got sick. So I don't like camping. Yeah. Well, she asked him if he knew how to like put up a tent, and he said that he pitched many tents. And I was like looking, I was looking for
More.
the fourth wall camera. So I was like, yeah. Then they talked. She thought that they were actually gonna like spend the night like in the woods, and he had her thinking that, but then he was like, "No, we're not staying in the woods. We're going back to the hotel." And
Hmm.
they talked about their mutual distances with their fathers, because her father wasn't really involved in her life either, so they kind of had that bond. And she also spent the night with him, stayed with him. And it's crazy because after I watched like the first two, I was like, Brie and Michelle like represent like the spectrum of girls that I like. Like I like tall girls and I like really short girls. So like Michelle, she was like this ex basketball player, and then Brie was like this little like pocket sized jump. So I was like they both. I'm sorry. Like all other stuff aside, because we know there's other stuff aside with Rachel. I was like, yeah, I would have probably leaned towards both of them. And then it was like a side note. as him and Bree were talking. I said like I felt like Matt had way deeper and meaningful conversations with Michelle and Bree overall. Better meetings with the families, with Bree and Michelle, than he did with Rachel. And I was just got to thinking, I'm like, the only explanation for him like choosing Rachel or him being that attached to Rachel is like, does Rachel look like a girl you had a crush with, or like an ex-girlfriend, like the one that got away or something? Like, I don't know. I'm just speculating. That was just my thoughts. And then it was Rachel's date, and they did ceramics like the movie Ghosts. Like they were doing the clay shit and getting dirty and putting clay and stuff on each other.
Hold on.
And then she was in her bag, like she was upset
Right.
because because of the other dates, she was the last and the other two girls went before her. So she had all of this anxiety and she like stopped mid date to like, basically like whine. And they had a conversation and they said that they loved each other, and which was kind of like a peculiar thing because he told her the whole situation about him and his dad. And she was like, well, I can't really like relate to that, but I feel like, that situation made you a better person. I just feel like that, and all that garbage. And then she stayed with him, and then they went back to the suite. And in through the windows in the suite, they had like fireworks going off, and I was like, all right, this is a bit much. And then they had the final rose ceremony, and he gave a rose to Michelle first, and then he gave a rose to Rachel, which of course meant that Bree was uh the third place person, the third place finisher in this season of The Bachelor. And they had a conversation outside, and she was like sad. She was like, she couldn't be mad at him. She couldn't be angry at him, but she's just sad that she wasn't, you know, what he wanted. And so Michelle and Rachel are like the final two, and I really still don't understand how we came to the conclusion of Rachel. But maybe perhaps in Monday's episode and after the final rules with Emmanuel Acho, not uh Chris Harrison, we'll get our answers, and we'll find out how Matt dealt with finding out this history with Rachel, where it seemed like she was like racially insensitive, and how he dealt with that and what the fallout in real time is, because obviously they couldn't give too much away. They couldn't give too much
Also,
transparency.
influence.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're in a situation where like you feel like you have the producers yelling at you, and then also you're trying to find the person you want to fucking be with. You got to deal with both. That's the whole thing with TV.
yeah,
And it's just the same thing with us. Life.
great.
Oh my glasses.
So yeah, we'll keep tuned, and so this will be so next week. We'll do our whole recap of the final episode. We'll recap the After the Rose because it comes on right after the final episode, and we'll kind of I don't know, maybe we'll do a full season. We'll probably break it up. We could probably the week after like do our whole like conclusion of this experience of watching The Bachelor for the first time and this experience of the first Black Bachelor. So stay tuned for that.